If you're considering an academic career or you are at the beginning of it, this is something you need to hear. When people talk about becoming an assistant professor, they usually focus on research, publications, or promotion. But what surprised me the most wasn't any single responsibility. It was the constant juggling of teaching, students, mentees, research, meetings, service all at once. And no one really prepares you for how fragmented your focus becomes. If you're new here, my name is Gulsum Kulsharova. I'm an assistant professor, and before that, I spent several years as a postdoctoral scholar. The reality of multiple commitments is that very quickly I realized that my time no longer belonged to one main priority, which was the case during my postdoc years. So you switch constantly between roles. One moment you are preparing lectures, next you are meeting students for their weekly updates, then emails, meetings, service work, and somewhere in between, real research. Each task is important, but together they could create pressure. Students take a significant amount of time. A lot of students want meetings, they want feedback, they want guidance, and they simply want to communicate with you and get an advice on their professional, personal lives. All of that is meaningful work, but even short interactions, when multiplied, consume a lot of energy and time. Also, switching from one task to another takes some emotional and intellectual bandwidth. Another thing is teaching was one of the biggest surprises for me. I remember when I started in my university, I teach 2 courses per semester, so 4 per year. And if the course is large, and especially in the beginning when you just started teaching, it can be very stressful because you have to create materials and lectures from scratch. So in my first semester, for example, as an assistant professor, I taught actually 3 courses. And all of them were new for me. I was in a new environment, and like many early career academics, I wanted to prove myself. So I took on more responsibility than I probably should have in the beginning. The teaching part became quite overwhelming, I remember, in the first semester. And 80% of my time was going to teaching, because it was new and I needed to gain some knowledge there. Postdoc versus assistant professor. As a postdoc, your priority is usually very clear. It's research. It is your main focus. But once you become an assistant professor, teaching suddenly becomes a priority, at least in the beginning, or during certain periods of time of the year. Research sometimes tends to move to the background. You focus on it during breaks a lot, quiet periods, or during summer especially. That shift was difficult for me. Honestly, my first semester was very hard, I would say. This is something I really want to emphasize. The first semester, or at least the start of any new position, if it's very different from what you've been doing before, can feel intense because everything is new at the same time. So especially for assistant professor position, new courses, new students, new expectations, new roles, new committees, new environment. And this doubles if you've just moved somewhere else to a totally new environment. In my case, at least I stay in the same university. At that point, it can feel like this level of stress will last forever, but it doesn't. This phase is temporary. Just remember, everything is difficult until it gets easy. So put a lot of effort in the beginning and just wait until it gets easy. Learn, adjust, give yourself time. Once you go through it once, a lot of that stress does not repeat itself in the same manner. So if you're in that stage right now, do not panic, it passes. What changed for me after the first semester as an assistant professor was that by my second semester, things were already easier, noticeably. Not because the work disappeared, but because I simply adjusted and I started understanding the system. I learned how things actually function in my department, in my school. I learned a lot of new things, so it was not overwhelming anymore. I learned what truly needs my attention and what doesn't. That clarity alone made a big difference. What I noticed is that one of the most important lessons I learned during that phase is that delegation is essential. The higher up you go, you simply cannot function without delegation. And for those of us who are used to doing things by themselves, it may be very difficult to delegate. But otherwise, without delegation, burnout is inevitable. So once I started delegating more and systematizing tasks instead of reacting to everything individually, my work became much more manageable. Another key realization for me at the time was the importance of being selective. In the beginning, it's tempting to take everyone who wants to work with you, whether in your research team or as a student or as a mentee, but spending time on hiring and selection saves enormous amounts of time later. I learned it through many mistakes myself, and I'm still learning to this day. But spending a lot of time on hiring and understanding people who want to work with you or in your team allows you to focus on strategic decisions, the kind of work that only you can do. You need to have people who you can delegate things and who do not depend on you as much. It depends on the level, of course, but my motto is becoming hire slow, fire fast. Unfortunately, I had to learn that through many mistakes. Another thing is service work and variation. Service work was also a bit of a surprise for me at the time. As an assistant professor, you are expected to attend meetings, you're expected to serve on committees and participate in discussions because service work is actually 20% of our duties. So service work varies a lot between institutions and departments and depends on your unit of work as well. But experiences differ, and that's important to keep in mind as well. So service work can take some time. Some can be surprising. Overall, for me, the biggest surprise wasn't one task specifically or one aspect of assistant professorship. It was the combination of everything happening at once. The first semester was therefore difficult for me, but with time, systems, delegation, and experience, it became easier. This was a steep learning curve. And overall, just give yourself some time. It does take some time. It does take some adjustment. But in the end, as I say, everything is difficult until it becomes easy. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you're early career academic or preparing for faculty position, I'd love to know what worries you most about the coming transition. If you're interested in the difference between academic research and industry research, then watch this video. Thanks for your attention. I will see you in the next one.